Okay, now today we're looking at 10 principles of a good assessment. And the first principle is principle number one. And looking at principle number one, according to David Nicol, principle number one, your assessment has to be clear. And being clear, guys, I want to introduce my team with a clear principle of assessment. Lehlonulo Masala, it's our teammate, he's the one. And then we've got Koza, Selby, and there's Felicity Mashihu, which is me, the presenter and the host. And that's Rifilwe Piake, the beautiful one, the princess. Mr. Rivombo is part of our group in another module, and that's Rose Mukwena, she's in the studio, and that's Musidi Munsu in absentia, and we'll also want to introduce Hora Koza in the studio, Lindin Slampo, and at backstage we also have Bonnie Wasing Jesse. Okay, and then this is our team list, and now, with the intro, effective assessment and feedback are essential component of teaching and learning process. They facilitate the growth, they inform instructional decision, it ensures accountability, and it prepares learners for success in the real world. Therefore, integrating these elements thoughtfully into education, it is critical for achieving positive educational outcomes. And as I said, the principle number one: if your principles has got no clear purpose, if you don't know what you are doing, if you're not clear, you cannot achieve what needs to be achieved in assessment. So one should have a clear purpose to emphasize the need to define the goals and objective of assessment. So the clear purpose ensure that assessment align with the intended learning outcomes and objective of the program, and it informs how educators design their instructional strategies, and it sets a clear expectation for both educators and the students. And then in principle number two has to do with assessment criteria, which must be explicit. Okay, so as it is explicit, the assessment standard must be as specific as feasible to be useful, so students can realize what is significant and valued in the curriculum when assessment criteria are transparent and unambiguous. Because when it's unambiguous is when it's not clear, there's no clear cut in what you are trying to assess, and even you as a lecturer, you won't be able to know what were you really assessing. So once that is done, individual can concentrate on their attention on what is most important on the learning objective and analyze their performance through self-evaluation and reflection. But remember, the evaluation is not only for self, but it's also for the institution to see if what needed to be achieved by the learner has been achieved. Because we visit the industry, we also go ahead and also sit among ourselves and see if we're achieving and we are providing the industry with the learners who are competent, who can do certain things. So that skill set needs to be assessed and evaluated and see if we are bringing such a skill set into the industry. Okay, now in principle number three, I would like to call on the podium Rose, as she's looking at assessment as it supports learning. Yes, we say yes, assessment does support learning. So Rose, I want to hear your take on how assessment supports learning.
Okay, thank you. I will take over from here. Assessment should support and enhance learning process. Research has shown that students can take a deep approach to prepare for their tests regardless of how difficult the assessment may be. So in the other words, students can go beyond surface level memorizing and effectively engaging with the material. When students integrate different concepts and relate them to a broader context, they develop a better understanding of the subject. So we can all understand that assessment is a critical part of the learning process, providing students with valuable feedback that can help them improve their performance. However, assessment can also have the potential to support and enhance the learning process. It can provide students with clear understanding of their strengths and weaknesses and help them to focus their efforts on areas that need improvement. It can also help teachers to identify areas where students are struggling and provide them with targeted support. When it's done effectively, assessment can be a very powerful tool for promoting and enhancing learning. However, it's very important to ensure that assessment is used in a way that is fair, valid, and reliable, and take into account the individual needs of students. Finally, we can say that assessment data can be used to inform instructional decisions and targeted interventions. It is a powerful tool that can be used to support students in classrooms and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. That was well said, Rose, on assessment. Now, on principle number 4, Khora says assessment has to be timely. This is one of the principle, a timely feedback. Now, timely feedback, we're looking at it with the clear cut of we usually assess our student and we have to mark, and we're giving something like 3 days or 4 days to finish marking. And well, but today we're looking at this assessment being argued against the use of AI. Now, using AI, we have seen ourselves giving students immediate feedback. Immediately after student writing the exam, the student get feedback immediately and promptly. What is your take on that, Khora?
Thank you for handing over, Ms. Mashiko. Please excuse me for not showing my face. I will take over on this principle. Basically, this principle works hand in hand with the formative assessment. Promptness is a very crucial key when it comes to assessment. The sooner the students get feedback, the sooner it allows them to go back and reflect on the assignments or the assessments that they have been given. It also will afford them the opportunity to go improve on the mistakes or whatever challenges that they may have faced when conducting or compiling that assessment. Another thing I will touch also on being specific. General comments such as good job or needs improvement, it also allows them to be able to how can I put it, to also be able to determine or to also score themselves on whether are they doing a good job or do they need to improve as well. It also gives them a chance to be able to
Improve.
go back and understand on whether what is it that they may have done wrong on that assessment, and also can also afford them the opportunity to be able to give them the confidence to attack or to attain or to approach the next assessment with more confidence, and this also allows them to improve their marks as well.
Okay, that was well said, Horam. With timely feedback, which allows students to also look at themselves and then try to improve, also try to self-inspect themselves and make a self-evaluation of whether they are ahead or they still need improvement. Okay. And then on that note, we're looking at principle number 5 of David Nicholl, peer assessment, peer and self-assessment being looked at by Fifi Piake. But now, being arguing the self-assessment thing, AI has enabled us to now see ourselves getting a personalized path where a student can even given an opportunity now to get his own assessment according to the level of achievement the student is gaining. So Fifi, you have looked at peer and self-assessment. What is your take on this one?
Thank you for allowing me onto the podium, Ms. Mashiko. Peer and self-assessment principle focuses on the importance of incorporating peer and self-assessment within the educational framework. Instead of focusing on students themselves and their attributes, the feedback emphasizes the students' performances, their learning and behaviors that are within their control. Self-efficacy is also another significant because it positively predicts academic accomplishment and is linked to deep approach to their learning, to all of which are significantly correlated with effort and persistence with their task. I'll also be sharing a few more of the other significances of peer and self-assessment principles, including focus on performance and behavior instead of solely concentrating on individual attributes of their students. This principle places emphasis on the feedback related to the students' performance, their learning, and their behavior so that they can be in control. Self efficacy and academic achievement, a person's belief in their ability to succeed in a particular situation or accomplish a task, as it is highlighted as a significant factor predicting very well academic success, as well as peer assessment roles. A component of this principle involves students evaluating their work of their peers. It fosters a sense of responsibility and provides an opportunity for students to learn through assessing others' work and reflecting on their very own. Thank you.
Okay, well said on that one. Now, principle number 6 looks at diverse assessment methods. Now, with the diverse assessment methods, we have seen the use of gamification in teaching and learning. We have seen the use of AI incorporating different languages in teaching and learning, and this diverse assessment. We have looked at e-assessments today. We've seen students are now getting self-assessment, which they can also find on the platforms, and they can immediately get feedback. They can assess themselves, and you can give students multiple opportunities to assess themselves, to reinforce concepts, not only reinforce concepts, but also to assess if a specific piece of work has been learned enough as they go through the learning path. So applying diverse assessment methods in teaching and learning is very crucial for our student to get to be able to achieve what they are intended to achieve in teaching and learning. That is principle number 6, which was supposed to be discussed by MEMCD. But moving on, looking at principle number 7, Boniwe, I ready at backstage to discuss principle number 7, formative assessment. Formative assessment integrates, if it's integrated into teaching and learning, student can achieve more than just achieving the learning objectives, because if you look at assessment not only for the purpose of agitating facts, we've seen assessment being able to assess and find out what a student is capable of, and also stimulates their, as the student's abilities, innate abilities in a much more powerful way. So clear learning goals and objectives need to be set when we want to find out what students have learned in teaching and learning. So establishing clear and specific learning objectives is essential for formative assessment, and students should be actively engaged in assessment process. They should be aware of the learning objectives. They should be encouraged to self-assess their progress, and involve in their setting. They should also check the areas of improvement, so to foster a sense of ownership, to own their own learning. Okay. And then with the ongoing feedback, formative assessment provides for ongoing feedback that emphasizes continuous feedback, and this should be specific and constructive and timely, allowing students to understand their progress. Okay, that is formative assessment principle number 7. Now, looking at principle number 8, principle number 8, it's about peer feedback. Is there anyone who wants to say something about peer feedback, principle number 8 in the studio? Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Yes, Selby.
Good evening. Thank you for handing over to me just to present this specific principle, which is peer feedback. Peer feedback, it's considered to be one of the valuable principle of good assessment within the context of education. Why is it so? There are so many reasons that this principle is considered as one of the good assessment. One of those reasons are that it provides timely feedback. Let's say, for example, where in a case where like a lecturer is giving us like assignments to do, instead of having to wait for the lecturer to actually mark our assignments, these peer feedback, it encourages active learning where students are directly involved, where they will have to give feedback to their peers by critically engaging with the material, and also which by so doing it will also help the student to actually understand the course material or the subject matter way better. Because before, maybe perhaps we can even submit our assignments, like I said before, if we can get a feedback from our peers, it will make us to even improve our work or to see the areas where we need to actually improve, so that at least before we submit to the lecturer, and then we know that at least we are going to score like good marks. And also it reduces the element of biasness, the risk of biasness from the instructor. Say, for example, the instructor doesn't have a good relationship with one of the students. Not literally to say that lecturers are biased, but then it's said that it reduces that element of biasness, because when you have peers giving feedback, which obviously will be monitored by the instructor, it multiple perspectives are really considered, where like maybe a group of students, yes, they will actually give a feedback to say, okay, this is maybe this is how you should attempt this discussion, and so on. So, and also it helps also the lecturer when giving feedback back to the students, also even himself have to consider that feedback from the group of these students. And like I said, this is one of the valuable principles of good assessment, because it gives timely feedback, and also it encourages the students to be actively involved in their learning, of which is one of the things that maybe perhaps like students they like the most, to have ownership, to engage in their work material. So this is what I can say about this principle. Thank you.
No, well said, Selby. Thank you so much about that. And this principle talks to us as students of postgrad, because we've been there to actually work together as a group, and we could actually assess each other, but there could be biasness if we really had to assess each other. Some of us, we misunderstood each other at the beginning. Really, we wouldn't really give each other what is deserved. But peer feedback has been a valued feedback, whereby if it's working positively, it can achieve wonders. Thank you.
I think in addition to that, like you said, that there can be that element of biasness. I think it's important for the instructor as well, maybe perhaps to train the students, or to provide like some sort of criteria on how to actually
go through it.
Because obviously when we give feedback to others, to our peers, we need to be constructive and also be respectful, and this will also help us to develop our interpersonal skills as well.
Yes, so true. Thank you, Selby, for that. Principle number 9 talks about assessment being authentic. Assessment has to be real, guys. Assessment has to be relevant. Assessment has to be competent. Is there anyone who wants to reflect on this one? Is there anyone? So in assessment, in an authentic assessment, in a real world, we've been advised that the best practice of authentic assessment is when we use the real world problems to solve whatever we want to solve. And today we're using vlogs. Not only, if you are doing a vlog, you're not only enabling communication, you are not only enabling, you are also enabling some other skill sets, where student can be able to go and interview others, find real world, go and solve real world problems, and find real world solutions for the problems. That's what assessment should be. In a best example is in programming, where a student, when he's a third year or fourth year student, a fourth year student will be given a project where in a company where they need maybe to have a system that will capture a specific data for that company, or do whatever the company would need. So that is an authentic assessment, that when a student leaves the institution, we know that is a programmer. He'll be able to provide the companies with real world programming solutions and provide solutions to companies. So that's what assessment needs to be like. It needs to be real, it needs to be relevant, and it should reflect on skills and competencies that the student have learned inherently from the course, whatever the course may be. Okay. And the last principle number 10, I would like to call on Lindy to talk about student engagement, because student engagement not only it's an assessment feature, but we've seen when students have to study, they must be actively involved in order to construct new knowledge. So Lindy, what is your take on student engagement?
Thank you so much, Ms. Mashiko, for the opportunity. Well, student engagement simply means that students have to take part and participate in the process. They can do that by asking questions or seeking to understand the feedback that they get from their lecturers. So we also have gamification, meaning that they can identify their objectives, simply determine what they want to achieve through gamifications such as increasing engagement, motivation, or learning outcomes. Then they can also define game elements, like incorporate game elements by points, budgets, leaderboards, and challenges into the content or the activities that they engage in. And then we also have interactivity. So with interactivity, they can simply use interactive elements like quizzes, polls, simulation, and discussions to involve their learning activity. So they can also use real world context, present information in the way that relates to the real world problems, and then it also encourage problem solving. Then lastly, we have collaborative, meaning that if students collaborate, they engage in working together on activities. It can be projects or discussions or even assessments like we do in our course. So that enables them to provide instant feedback to guide learners and help them understand the process and helping each other if they don't understand. They can simply ask their peers. That is all about collaboration. And thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Lindy. Well said. Now, we've seen with all what have been said, we've seen the use of AI being used in assessment more than using our traditional methods of teaching and learning. We've seen online teaching and learning emerging, where we've seen other tools emerging, such as your online polls, your survey monkeys. We've seen because we can also create a diagnostic test before you start teaching your students. You can also create a diagnostic check to see what is it that you can teach your students, because you cannot just teach your student what they already know. So with the diagnostic check, you are able to say, okay, fine, I can start teaching from here because my student already know this and that and that. And with all that, we can also perform e-assessment. We've seen now, even in this course, we are also now creating our profile by now, doing our presentations here. Now, from our presentation, from this, we have learned an interpersonal skill where we can work together. Here we are, we have seen ourselves presenting together as a group. That is one way. But then AI not only enables this, because now when it finds out that, no, Felicity, I've noticed that you can't do A, B, or C. I think the language is lacking here, or if it's not language, I've seen that, okay, this part of the work you haven't started doing. It can recreate a question for me, so that and even some learning path that I can now follow, so that I can be able to start scaffolding and learn more of what I don't know in the area. So AI has enabled more than just that. Now we've seen in gamification also, which also overcome boredom. Look at picture number 3 there. They are so excited after getting the scores. So it provides immediate feedback as well. We've seen there with inclusivity, we can now use robots now to personally teach that girl there. There are many possibilities, and with prompt feedback, they are also able to self-check themselves, also see the areas of improvement, also see where else they can, improve and continue with their learning path or go to the next level. And it also motivates a person if he or she has done well in the area. And by also allowing different languages and being able to translate to different languages, it accommodates learners from every areas and aspect of life. And I've seen also the use of the computers now that enables even students who are disabled, such as students who cannot see, the blind students. There's now screen recording and screen readers that enable students now it helps the student to read the screen from the computer as the student works from the PC as well. Those are the enablers. I think AI is an enabler for teaching and learning of the future. I'm not sure if it's the future, but it starts today, but in the future is going to be much more dynamic than today. And I thank you for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for attending. And thank you for watching us, those who have joined us on YouTube live.
Thank you.
So I'm ending this.